breakfast so far? No, why? What happened? But what time will do it then? We won't take much time yours. Okay. Hope you'll enjoy the session. Okay. We are from Nvestlabs. It's a group of Nvest. Okay, from Canada. The head office is located there. And we are here to give you a blockchain session like on Solidity, Ethereum, whatever the things, the present booming technology. And you just utilize the session because every time you'll get the Java, Python, like that sessions, right? But this is the new one you're getting. Hope you utilize this. And here in these sessions, I have introduced you Mr. Shorupan Pirakapathy, and he is the CEO of Nvest Groups and the Global Exchange. And he will start the session. Sir.
Oh, lovely. Cool. Is it okay if I leave this here? All right, thank you. Yeah, no, I don't need the mic.
No, you can. It's a low volume. You can.
Mic test?
Yeah, you have everything.
Yeah.
I'll just play.
Play, what do you got?
Is it started?
No, but what videos do you have?
I have everything.
Okay, play one. Let me see which one you have ready. Okay, let's start with that.
No, you just talk like
No, I got you. I just want to make sure you got it ready. All right. I just want to check the volume and to see if I need a mic. Can everyone hear me? Even at the back? Can I have the door closed? Is that possible?
Yeah.
You'll do it? All right, cool. Sorry, I just really hate mics. Like, I despise them. I think they're like never going to work properly. So I try not to use them when I don't need to. If you cannot hear me at any given point, I will use it, so let me know. I'll start off with some housekeeping rules. And I think it's absolutely terrible that they put me up here in front of a hungry audience because I've spoken enough to know that no matter what you say, it's not going to sound good to a hungry audience. So on the back of that, I want to thank you guys considerably for waiting, for taking the time out of your day, although I think your teachers kidnapped you and put you in here, for at least sitting and not getting too grumpy. The housekeeping rules that I have, and I will try to be short due to the interest of time, is that I apologize because I speak very fast, so forgive me in advance. I also clearly speak with an accent. I apologize for that. And I use a lot of technical jargon, so I apologize for that. If at any given point I say something that makes no sense, just let me know and I will repeat it or I will elucidate upon it in a way that makes sense. Usually, I just want to get a gauge of the audience. Who here is a computer science student? Everyone's a computer science student. Everyone's the same age, like same year? Was that third year, fourth year? Third year. And it's a 4-year computer science program. And then how many of you in here are interested in either what we're going to talk about today being blockchain or the other popular field of the day, artificial intelligence? Only one person. So I guess everyone else wants to make websites. I'm assuming there's more and just people are shy to engage. How many people in here know what blockchain is? 1, 2, 3. That's actually quite high of a number. Usually nobody knows what it is. How many people here have heard the word cryptocurrency? Many more people have done that. How many people in here have bought a cryptocurrency? Oh, that's really impressive. Hope it's going well. How many people in here know JavaScript? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like 10, 15 people. Lovely. Okay, I guess that gives me enough of a gauge of the audience to kick this off. The objective of today's talk, as succinct as it may be, is to make sure that you guys have one perspective on what we believe to be a groundbreaking technology. So it's very easy to go through a 4-year university education and never hear about things that are disrupting the industries that you'll be working in. And that's typically because university educations are a couple years outdated, because they have to be in order for you to get them in your textbooks and for people to be trained to be able to teach you. So unless you are one of the few people who have an older brother or an older sister working in a very bleeding edge subsect of your program, you might actually not ever even hear about some of the terminology that we're going to talk about today. And that is a detrimental position upon which to graduate. There's nothing worse than graduating, which we will all do next year, without knowledge on what the next 10 years of your industry is going to hold. So if I asked you how many people in here know C or Java or SQL, I'm sure every single person's hand would go up. The only issue is that those technologies are from the last 2 decades. Artificial intelligence or blockchain, which are undoubtedly the technologies of the next 2 decades, very few people were able to resonate. So all I want to do, or all we look to do as we speak at different colleges and universities, is kind of shock you or even scare you into going home and doing some research. So the scientific method would proclaim that every single thing that I'm about to say is a lie. So you should go home and research it. Just assume what I'm telling you is worth your investigation. I assure you that it is worth your investigation and that you will be much better positioned as an engineer, as an IT professional, or even just as a citizen for doing so. So let's get started to what we're doing here. I will only talk about myself for like 2 minutes, I promise, and the rest of the time I will not mention myself. I think I'm actually a very boring subject, although other people like to talk about me more than I do. In 2017, I started a company called Nvest Bank. I'm originally from a place called Toronto, Canada, which is very cold this time of year around and is very far, almost 6,000 kilometers away. My parents were born in a very small island called Sri Lanka, which is very close to here. And so that's kind of my lineage. I went to school for mechanical engineering. I then dropped out of university to start a couple of other companies and then got into Nvest. My obsession is cryptocurrencies. That should not be your obsession. I'd strongly advise against anyone getting into them unless they have extraordinary resilience, mental resilience. What you should be concerned about is the technology that underpins cryptocurrencies. So almost 70% of the room put their hand up when I asked about crypto, so maybe you guys can shout out some words that you think have something to do with cryptocurrencies. Trust me, there's no wrong answers on this one. Bitcoin, yes, that's one. Very popular. Virtual transactions. Okay, that's interesting. Anything else? Someone said Satoshi? Satoshi Nakamoto is the inventor of Bitcoin that we do not know who he is. What else do we know? Mining. Very interesting concept. Very, very interesting concept. Cryptocurrency mining, yes. What else? Ledger. Very sophisticated concept as well in cryptocurrencies. Okay, fair. So the reason people know about cryptocurrencies more than they know about blockchain is because there's a market value associated with them. In other words, there's a price. And anytime there's a price, everyone likes to pay attention. And so since the price of Bitcoin goes up and down and sideways very rapidly, it's very easy to pay attention. And there's lots of news about it. However, the way that cryptocurrencies were designed, or in other words, the technology on which they were built, is much more important. I'll give you an example to illustrate how important they actually were. So you guys all use Gmail or what? Gmail, what do you guys, some of you still Yahoo users? No one in India uses Yahoo, that's for sure. I saw a couple of my friends still use Yahoo. So all Gmail, I would imagine. Okay, great. Gmail is an email client. There's lots of email clients, like we just mentioned Yahoo, there's Outlook, there's a couple other ones. Absolutely. Would you say that there is more to the internet than just email? Of course. Would you say that email is important for sure, but there's millions of other functions of the internet, and you guys use them every single day? And so what the internet was a network protocol, right? It's a protocol on which people were able to develop systems, able to develop applications, able to develop, one of them being an email client. But the span, the depth of the internet, most of which we don't even know yet. The internet is also still very young technology. You can make the comparison that telecommunications, like phone networks, are like a grandfather, right? They were born in like the late 50s, so they're getting into like retirement age. And the internet, which although was propagated at the late 70s, really didn't become a consumer product until the late 90s, meaning it's a teenager. I mean, what year were you guys born? Probably 99. So the internet is as immature as you, or as mature, depending on how you look at it. The blockchain is a baby. Actually, I don't even know that we can make an argument that it's born yet. It might still be in labor. In labor. But the profound impact of the internet as a teenager has already changed everything. Telecommunications as a grandfather didn't even change everything. And when telecommunications first came out, people thought it was the craziest thing in the world. But the internet in short 25 years has changed everything. Everything about the way we do everything. You cannot get on a flight. You cannot go see a doctor. You definitely can't order food anymore. You're not processing payments. You're not getting any identification validated. You're definitely not studying without the power of this internet. And email is one of them. Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies is like email. It's a singular application on something called the blockchain, which is comparable to the internet. Actually, I would make a good argument that the blockchain is more important than the internet. Probably substantially more important. Now, just imagine how much jobs, life, civilization depends on the internet, and I'm saying that the blockchain is more important. We'll talk about why I think that's the case, but I think that's the important thesis of my statement, that this is the most important technology of your lifetime, that when I was growing up, I was so sad because I was really young during the internet kind of boom. I always wanted to move to San Francisco and like be a part of the internet era, but I was very young. I was like 4 years old. So I missed that shot. And I never thought that in my lifetime of studying kind of economic and technological innovations that there would be another technology that could rival the internet. Until, of course, 2016 when I figured out cryptocurrency and I lost my mind. So that's a little background on us. The company Nvest Bank was the world's first cryptocurrency bank with physical branches. So I was crazy enough to think that, you know what, if people are going to use crypto, they probably need banks, just like there's real banks for real currency. Why not create one? This was the type of crazy, stupid ideas that I had when I was younger. And we created one. It was the world's first one in Toronto. The second one I created in London. And then in 2017, the price of Bitcoin went from $1,000 in January. That's when I first bought my first Bitcoin. I think Ramesh bought his first Bitcoin way before me, $200 or something crazy like that. Yes, exactly. And think about something that in January was worth $1,000, or what is that in, let's say, rupee terms is about 80,000 rupees, and by December was worth $20,000 in 1 year, 2017. That will make people go crazy. If something goes up 20 times, Can you imagine your house going up 20 times in value? Your parents would go bananas. They would not know what to do. They just got so rich overnight, virtually. And that is what the world, I always look at that era, like that 2017, December of 2017, that's when Bitcoin hit $20,000, as the whole world for the first time paid attention. And by I mean whole world, I mean banks and governments. That's what I kind of mean when I say whole world. Average people still don't know much about cryptocurrency, but banks and governments thought this was a joke until, of course, it went up 20 times in 1 year, and no longer is it a joke, but it could be potentially a very lucrative investment. So we began investing pretty heavily. By we, I mean me, my co-founder, the rest of the company. And in 2018, I like to make the joke that everything that goes up ultimately will, of course it'll come down. Like the gravity will always make it come down. So Bitcoin went up to 20,000, and then in 2018 came right back down. And the same people that went bananas in the other way. Because lots of my friends went and bought like Ferraris and like insane amounts of stuff, thinking that Bitcoin is going to keep going up. And of course it didn't. And so as the asset class began to tumble, now the same governments and banks that were watching it are like, holy smokes, this is crazy, right? They couldn't believe their eyes. I mean, historically, if you watched Bitcoin, it actually does follow these kind of crazy upswings and downswings. But I mean, this was the first time people, like mainstream media, would pay attention to it. During this time, we were lucky enough, by we, I mean, Nvest was lucky enough to launch what ended up becoming the Nvest Group. What started off as more of like a banking business turned into an incubation studio. Incubation is a fancy word for saying we like to look at startups and like give them a place to grow their company. We would make the first initial investment, and then we would provide them the services to grow their company. So because the price of cryptocurrencies were falling, everyone wanted to sell everything. They wanted to sell coins, they wanted to sell companies, they wanted to sell intellectual property. And so we were able to acquire a lot of hard assets. Now, right now, our portfolio probably consists of about 27 companies that are all over the world. I mean, they're doing some very interesting things, and like everything you can imagine, real estate on the blockchain, identity management on the blockchain. Obviously, payments and currency is the natural format for blockchain. But even things like medical records, they are looking at every industry in the same way that the internet looked at every industry and said, where can we drive efficiency by cutting out time latency, by cutting out network latency? And the internet did that very effectively. This whole city, you can make an argument, was built off of that revolution, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what the population of Bangalore was in about 1995, but I think it would be an interesting number to find out. I can't imagine it was anything more than 2 million people would have lived here. And that's still a pretty big city. But I think the last time I checked the population, it was 15.6 million. Where did all those people come from? Did they come to enjoy the traffic? It's like incredible amounts of traffic. Did they come to enjoy the pollution? What used to be very beautiful and green is no longer green. Garden City is no longer the Garden City, I would say. They came for one thing. They came because all of the internet companies were in one place. So the internet changed not only the way we do things, the way that people worked, the way that people set up their families. And again, the blockchain will have a much more significant implication. We launched, like I came to India in 2000 man, it feels like ages ago, but this hasn't been that long. 2018, yes, for sure. I just have 100% 2018. Yes, August of 2018. And I wanted to set up like a very small office for a software development company called Gravity Chain, which is a blockchain company. And so my founding team sent me here. They're like, all right, go. So I said, I'm coming. So my first time coming here. So I came and I landed, and I had hired one person who would assist me in kind of navigating the local landscape. And as soon as I landed, I was astonished because the first thing that they had me do was go speak at, is it BIT? Is that the name? Bangalore Institute of Technology? Is there a BIT?
Yeah.
No, there is a BIT though,
Yeah,
Kirtan's University.
Kirtan is VIT.
No, Kirtan is not. Kirtan is BIT. Yeah. So I had spoken there within like a couple weeks of landing, and I was astonished by the amount of people that didn't know anything about the blockchain. And I said, oh my goodness, like, so these people are highly proficient programmers in some capacity. And if they only knew that by adding such a very simple skill, they could double or triple their income, I don't think they knew that, or else they would have done it. So I said, oh my God, what if we could create like a system where people that are already JavaScript engineers, that's why I always ask, do you know JavaScript? JavaScript is the precursor to learning how to program in blockchain, very much like you could say Python is the programming language for artificial intelligence, or at least scripting. JavaScript is definitely the precursor for all this WebJS stuff. And if you knew JavaScript, which a lot of these students knew JavaScript, literally probably within 60 days you can learn Ethereum-based programming. And those 60 days would double your income for the rest of your life, because the amount of demand for blockchain engineers is mind-boggling. You can look at LinkedIn searches, you can look at Indeed postings, you can look at, what do you guys use here, Naukri.com? Is that one? Naukri.com is like, yeah? Monster.com, Naukri.com. You can look at government, state, like labor census. You can look at reports from Silicon Valley or any place in the world, and the amount of blockchain engineer vacancies will never be filled. That's how much vacancies there are. I always like to do the joke that if you go tonight and go to Indeed, or just go to Google and say blockchain jobs Bangalore, you will not see small companies like ours hiring, although you will see them too. Every bank in India, every multinational company, every domestic technology company, governments, central banks are the ones looking for blockchain engineers. The joke was that banks used to hire bankers. They will no longer hire any bankers. If you have a finance degree, you will be rendered futile. I hope no one in here has a finance degree. The only job in a bank moving forward will be an engineering job, and it will all be predicated around this concept of a blockchain, how the digital ledgers will re-architect modern economics is an astonishing, like profound implication. So, what is Invest? So I launched this thing called the Invest Campus. I said, you know what, let's create this like campus, because I like the way universities are built, where people can come and create their companies, and like engineers can come and learn about the blockchain. And so we did it. It's in Jaynagar, which is like, I don't know where we are right now.
Now we are in King, like,
What?
Uttarahalli main road.
What, Parliament Road?
No, it's Uttarahalli main road.
Nice, okay, so I'm not gonna try to pronounce that, but you get my point. Jaynagar, I think, is like 20 minutes from here. Half an hour. What's the kilometer count? Probably one, but just with Bangalore traffic, it's 30 minutes, right? Yeah, no, we launched Invest Campus in Jaynagar. Can you go to investcampus.com? Or, yeah, first go to the website, and then you can open up the video, which you should already have loaded. Honestly, guys, this is like the greatest person you can ever work with. Rafi is unbelievable. Hopefully, you will have the luxury of working alongside someone like him. He's also a computer science graduate like you guys, but his tenacity is impeccable. I've never seen something like it. So, I don't know why it's not loading, but I'm assuming it's because universities try to like block the internet connection. It's fine. So there are 3 Invest campuses. One is in Bangalore. The biggest one by far is in Bangalore. The second one is in London. The third one I'm building in Shenzhen, right after the coronavirus calms down. I'll be heading back over there. But yes, those are my 3 places, 3 of my favorite cities in the world at this point. Yeah, it's playing, yeah. But you can now, so essentially what it looks like is a facility, like an entire building allocated to just blockchain. I think it has to be the only one in India as such, and probably now the biggest blockchain incubator in India. Probably about 130 employees will work there full time, and like I said, about 20 companies are built out of there. So now you can show the video. Sure. You don't have that on your computer? So why are you YouTubing it? No, it's not that one, but okay. All right, man, it's fine. What do you have saved on your computer? What? Yeah, play that. Pause that. Pause. So loud. Super loud. I didn't even capture that first part. Yeah, sorry, the video was kind of like sporadic because at the top floor you have the campus. That's actually where all the engineers work. And on the bottom floor, we just launched a production studio, which is I think they showed in the first part of the video. And then we just launched a training academy, which was the second part of the video, which is called Nvestlabs. So that's what I'm saying, like the whole building is kind of retrofitted for that. Yeah, and that's kind of what we do. But like I said, I don't want to spend too much time talking on that because mad boring. Let's get into the fun stuff, which is the blockchain. And the reason, by the way, that institution was set up the way that it was is that so we can have a place where aspiring engineers that want to get into the industry have a place to come and obtain certifications, have a place to come and obtain just additional educational material, and then immediately start working for one of the companies that are incubated out of there. So that works pretty well for us. And so now to talk about why you should care. So, since you guys have a very limited understanding of the blockchain, and since I want to be succinct with this, I'm going to give you guys two analogies. If you can wrap your head around these two analogies, you will understand why this is as important as I say it is. Number one, fundamentally that all current web architecture is based in this concept of cloud computing. Is that fair to say? That no one is hosting their own servers in their own buildings anymore? Had I walked into this university 15 years ago, there's probably been colossal server rooms where they have hard servers and machine. Those days are long gone. Now all of the data is hosted in data centers, colossal I don't know if you've ever been. I've had the luxury of going to both Amazon and Google's data center in Seattle and San Francisco, and they are like cities. They're absolutely enormous. And then that's when you start to get a small realization of like, oh my God, every picture, every message I ever sent is sitting in one of these centers. Or else you might just think that the internet just makes them disappear, but that's not how anything works. So all websites today are rendering all of their data to a data center controlled probably by one of three companies. At this point, Microsoft, Amazon, or Google. Amazon has by far the leadership position. I think over 60% of all cloud computing is done on AWS. All of our companies use AWS, so I'm a big customer of theirs, but either Google and Microsoft Azure are coming close. What does this mean? This means that a very few amount of people have control over all of the information on planet Earth. I'll give you a small statistic that maybe it's hard to imagine even. Facebook controls the communication channels for almost at this point 55% of the world's population. So that's about 4 billion people controlled by one company that has about 30,000 employees. Very much controlled by a couple of people at the executive position. Now, that doesn't sound, no, it actually sounds terrifying actually. But let me explain to you why that's not terrifying. Because the information passed on Facebook more or less is kind of useless. It's embarrassing if those information came out about you guys, but it's probably not life-threatening if that information came out about you guys. And so the model that these internet companies made very popular is let us control the servers, us being them, so that we can give you guys fast data. So when you open up your Facebook, you don't pay for it. You don't pay a penny or a paisa for a Facebook. And you get all of the information in milliseconds usually. Do you know how hard that actually is to do? Like for those of you that have maybe worked in like development operations with servers, you would know how difficult that actually is to pull off. To control that much data and to serve it to, I don't know, what's the daily active users on Facebook has to be over 1 billion at this point. Why do they do it? Why are they wasting so much hundreds of billions of dollars? It is because the aggregation of that data allows them to sell advertisements. So you can say that this model, this business model, is really a post-internet business model. Let's take everyone's data and let's advertise against them. And in order to take their data, let's give them all the services for free. That's why you get Google for free, Gmail for free, YouTube for free, Google Maps is free, Facebook is free, WhatsApp is free, Snapchat is free, TikTok, everything is free. The issue is, when you try to apply that same business model to more sensitive pieces of data. So I don't really care that whatever picture I posted in, I don't know, like grade 12 gets out, although that still might be detrimental to my career at this point. But I do care if, for example, my medical records get out. Or let's go with the most obvious example. What about the records that control how much money I have? When was the last time you saw all the money in your bank account? Think about that question for 1 second. When was the last time you saw the money in your bank account? The actual cash. Can anyone tell me a time? I don't think any of you have ever seen it actually. Me either. I've never seen it either. I've never seen the money in my bank account. Does that mean that they are just zeros and ones? Is that correct? They're just bits in a computer program? All of you guys are programmers. How easy is it to change a number on a program? How much effort does it take to change one number on a program? 1 button, 2 buttons at most? Command line enter, you can change? What if I wanted to go from having 100,000 rupees to an additional 0? How much work would that take? Can you imagine if you had to go get 1 more 0 worth of cash? Just think about that. You have some 100,000, 1 lakh rupees, and you wanted 10 lakh rupees. And I said, here's 1 lakh rupees, make me 10. You would first have to figure out how you're going to do that, and then take some wild guess as to how long that's going to take. But if you were, for example, Bank of America or HDFC, or maybe you're not even Bank of America or HDFC, but you're just a developer working at Bank of America or HDFC, and you wanted to do 1 lakh to 10 lakhs, I think you can do it in a couple seconds. So let me ask you the following question. Is the life savings that you guys are accruing something you want to be secure? I would hope so, considering you're sitting in this institution for 4 years, just so you can go work somewhere for 40 years, also you can make money. And I'm asking you, can you explain to me the security apparatus behind that money? Apart from, well, we think that like Google Pay and them will be just fine. Or we think that the banks will just be fine. I will assure you that they will not just be fine. It has nothing to do with what country, what currency. It could be dollars, rupees, pounds, euros. Banks today are more threatened than ever because they have tried to adopt, well, going into kind of the digital revolution, they needed to adopt a much more light client model to all their data, because just remember, before the internet, banks would keep literal notebooks with all of your money, ledgers. And that's why I was really shocked when someone said the word ledger. A ledger is an accounting. It was invented by a person named Luca Pacioli, one of my heroes, in 1419, who was the Italian Renaissance mathematician. The only issue with digital is that it's free to manipulate. How many emails can you send out? Lots. How much of the same email can you send out? Unlimited amounts. Yes or no? Can you send one email to every person in this class, the same email? How fast? Very fast. So how do you then put money in a digital system and prevent that same problem from happening? Because if I gave you 1 rupee and you sent that same rupee to everyone, that's not cool. That's not cool. That's not going to work out. That's not how money works. And so to solve these problems, because remember, banks are always mad slow when it comes to this stuff. They're very slow. So they were coming into the internet age, and other companies that were much more sophisticated in information systems said, listen guys, to the banks, why don't we just take care of validation? And you guys can take care of storage, what you're good at. Storing money, that's what they're good at. That's what they've done for hundreds of years. We'll take care of validation. So we will validate to make sure that he doesn't send the same digital rupee to 10 people. And those companies are Visa, MasterCard, American Express, PhonePe, Paytm, today now more like Google Pay, government-instituted institutions like UPI, PayPal, Zelle. The list will keep going on. What do those companies do? They make sure that you're not sending the same money to more than one person. And that is what Satoshi Nakamoto wanted to do without those companies' involvement. Satoshi Nakamoto is an anonymous person. We still don't know who he is. He's like a famed character. At this point, he's like a relic, like he's like a god that we don't know who he is. 11 years going. There's a very good, no one, again, you could go Google him, people will try to take their guess. Is he Chinese? Is he American? Is he Indian? Is he a male? Is he a robot? Is he a female? Is he a dog? We have no clue. What we do know is he was very advanced in cryptography. Probably the most sophisticated cryptographic mind I've ever encountered. Now, I've never met him, but I'm saying I've read about. And he, in 2008, had watched these internet companies become the moral arbiter of payments for banks who couldn't do it themselves, and said, what if we could create an alternative system where everyone functions as the validator and not just PayPal? And that sounded like a stupid idea at the time, if I ever heard one. Can you imagine him going to his teacher and saying, this is my project. I want to change the way that all my validations, they'd be like, yo, you're crazy. Except that in 2008, something very, very unique had occurred. I don't know if you guys recall, 2008, what's 2008 famous for? Financial crisis, exactly. The greatest financial crisis and the greatest free market banking crisis since the Great Depression. The sovereignty of the world's financial system, which were really underwritten by American banks, almost fell apart. Now, again, it is an unbelievable event. You should go back and read about it. People will read about that event like they read about World War II, in my opinion, 50 years from now. It was that incredible that the entire financial system, we're talking every government, central bank, with all the power and authority in the world, was rendered to a couple of days away from shutting down. Do you know what happens when banks shut down? I'll tell you what happens. Anarchy. Anarchy. What's another word for anarchy? Chaos. Chaos. The only time you've seen something close to it is in 2016 when you guys went through demon. Did that look like chaos? Yeah, that was chaos. And that was organized. That was slightly planned. I mean, whether it was a good execution, bad execution, I'm not here to speak on that, but at least someone had a plan. This was a crisis, meaning nobody planned for it. And what happened after the great financial crisis? Somehow we got through it. Tons of money was printed. And when I mean tons, I mean literally you would not believe the amount of money that was printed. We're still printing money to escape that recession. But what also occurred in that time was the public lost faith in their financial institutions. My grandparents and my parents were born and they thought banks were invincible. They thought that if it was a bank, that was forever going to be there, like a temple. And in 2008, we learned that that wasn't true. 6 of the top 10 American investment banks shut down. How many foreclosures? We still don't know, but we know millions of people foreclosed on everything from businesses to houses to everything. In India, you guys had a different version of the recession, but I'm speaking on a global front. Complete sentiment was wiped out. And that's the time that Satoshi Nakamoto said, you know what? This may be a good time. This might be something I've been waiting for a couple of decades or years. And he released the white paper, the algorithmic thesis. It's an 11-page paper. I'd highly recommend you read it. It's complete computer science, called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer currency. And you know who read it? Nobody, because he was a nobody. And so he released it. Like, imagine someone releasing something on like a WhatsApp chat that nobody reads. That's like the equivalent of how Bitcoin was released. No company, no government, no marketing budget, no academic sightings, nothing. Just one guy that nobody even knew his identity was, let alone found him credible, releasing it on an internet forum. Guess what happened over the next couple of years? A couple of people found out about it. People like Ramesh found out about it. And they got interested. Then guess what happened? 2013, Bitcoin went to $1,000. Like I said, when something goes up in value, more people pay attention. So now some startups started getting interested. Venture capitalists said, oh, this might be something cool. Then fast forward 2017 and the whole world starts to pay attention. That is how we got here. Now, remember, technically speaking, what did Satoshi Nakamoto accomplish? He accomplished a mechanism using consensus algorithms, a very specific type of consensus algorithm called SHA-256, which is probably the most commonplace cryptographic algorithm used to secure every website, every bank, hospital. And he said, we can create a methodology using this cryptography whereby anyone with a computer can actually become a validator. How do they become a validator? Do they sign up and say, I want to become a validator? No. They are performing mathematical equations through a very sophisticated computer program on their computer. And in exchange for dedicating their computing capacity, what is computing capacity when translated into the real world? Let's talk like chemical engineering, mechanical engineering. It is kinetic energy. You are exerting force in the format of kinetic energy, which in the real world is hot and costs money. And you pay for it via electricity. So what he said was, if we can use everyone's computer on planet Earth to perform very, very sophisticated mathematical equations, which they wouldn't be able to perform unless they were burning so much electricity, then now that can become the method of becoming a validator for a new format of peer-to-peer transactions. Today, there is more computing. Oh, by the way, that's the process called mining. Whoever said the word mining. And you get paid for mining. That's why it became a very popular idea. You get paid for allocating your computational resources. There is, sorry, say that again? 13 Bitcoin. Yeah, 13 Bitcoin for getting a block. It changes over. It's very difficult to win a mining competition now because there's so many. In 2018, there was more electricity being burned mining Bitcoin than Switzerland was occupying. There is more computing power allocated to mining Bitcoin, not by one person, by all random people, than if you took all of Google's data centers, which I already told you is huge. and multiply it by 100. There are fundamental factories in China and Eastern Europe, Russia, that are dedicated to just mining algorithms. This is now the new Silicon Revolution. Silicon Valley was famous. Why? People think it's for software companies. That came very late in Silicon Valley's maturation. It's called Silicon Valley because the first companies that came out of there were Intel. And Intel made chips, silicon chips, hence the name. Silicon fabrication, according to Moore's law, was now propagated by the computer revolution. That's no longer the case. Silicon fabrication from this point on will be propagated by the consensus algorithm, ASICs, application specific intricate system revolution. These are all multinational, multi-billion dollar shifts in computer science. Cryptography, not artificial intelligence, not IoT, not anything, is the most exciting, dynamic field in computer science. It's also the one that nobody knows much about. But if you think about it just very simply, and I'll end it off with this. In this room right now, I could probably see about 20 IP devices, not including your cell phones. If I included your cell phones, then I'd put one more for every person. But I'm talking about my watch. I myself are carrying a couple wireless headphones, like, Samsung Wear stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, you can just rack them up. So there's 20 things connected to the internet, not including cell phones. Including cell phones, if there's 100 people in here, 120. In 5 years, that number will triple. Why? Do you think you'll have 3 phones? No, but that fan will have an IP address. This desk will have an IP address. Your earrings, your glasses will all have IP addresses. There will be no chance you'll be wearing a watch that doesn't have an IP address. Those lights, everything will have an IP address. Things to have, so this type of computing will become so cheap that you'll put it in absolutely everything. You'll put it in garbage cans. You'll put it in drawers. You will put it in everything. Actually, I made a joke one time that, no, sorry, it wasn't a joke. It was a legit project someone tried to pitch me. A garbage can, that's really cool. It has nothing to do with the story. I just thought it was funny that I said that. It's a garbage can that when you open it, it shows you an advertisement. Based on what you're throwing out. Right? You're throwing out some Coca-Cola, it's going to show you some ad for new Coca-Cola. I'm like, man, the level of connectivity is going to skyrocket. Now, with all of that connectivity, you will have incredible amounts of AI wrangling algorithms in the cloud. You will have IoT devices connecting everything. You know what you need for all of that? Secure connections. More importantly, you will need a ledger. None of those transactions will ever get put anywhere. And the blockchain underpins all of that. Like I started off this conversation by saying, it is not a cryptocurrency revolution. That is how it started. It is a data sovereignty revolution. Data is the oil of the 21st century. It is the thing that will make this world go around once oil is long gone. It is the most valuable and maybe the only asset you will ever have left. And the blockchain is the mechanism, the operating system for storage, procurement, and development on it. I strongly advise you to take 20 minutes out of your very busy life and go and Google every single thing I said today to prove that I'm not lying. And I assure you, when you do, you will fall into the same rabbit hole. Do you guys have that saying here, rabbit hole? Maybe something else. You will fall into the same spell, the same, I don't know, like snake charmer, I guess, whatever it is, that I fell into. Guys, it has never been a better time to be a computer science graduate. Never, 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 never. You have all the power in the world in a small device in front of you. Now, you can choose to amp up your skill set and differentiate yourself, and your income and job prospects will go through the roof. Trust me, I know I'm the one forced to pay blockchain engineers, and it is not a friendly negotiation, as they always have the upper hand negotiating with me because they're just in demand all over the world, every country. It is the greatest investment you can make. Do not invest 1 penny into blockchain, but invest all of your mental and time capacity. It will be the industry that redefines computer science. Thank you so much. How do you want to throw up? What's next? Yes. Are you going to say something? No, not exactly. Okay, cool. Q&A. So what are the questions? Oh, wow, standing up with the mic. Yes, ask.
Everyone can listen to question.
So your whole concept was about starting a bank which can, in which people can keep their cryptocurrency.
Yes.
But you are in India, and I guess cryptocurrency is illegal in India.
Yeah.
So why you chose India for this?
Wow, what an interesting question. Okay, so
it's not actually illegal in India.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of answers to this question. That's why I'm just trying to think of where to start. Okay, first and foremost, let's address the legal status of cryptocurrencies in India, because I'm sure when you go home tonight and you try to Google it, you will see a variety of different positions on the matter. So first and foremost, banning cryptocurrencies anywhere, or making it illegal, is like making a website or a specific domain illegal. It's very difficult to do and not worth anyone's time, including the government. So they haven't made it illegal. What they've done is that in 2017, the Reserve Bank of India forbid state-regulated banks from issuing bank accounts to cryptocurrency businesses. So let me repeat that again. All state-regulated banks in India, which includes State Bank of India, but also includes private banks that have banking licenses, are all regulated by RBI, which is the Reserve Bank of India. So what the Reserve Bank of India did in 2017 is saying that, listen, you as a state bank cannot issue checking accounts to a cryptocurrency exchange. But then they broadcasted that as they made it illegal, which is just not correct. Actually, the funny thing about that is that they've been trying to have a Supreme Court hearing since 2017 to try to actually create some legal framework, but this Supreme Court hearing is never happening. Every time it's supposed to happen, it keeps getting delayed. It's like that other Supreme Court hearing that was supposed to happen for 3 decades and just happened. No, they're not going to ban it. It's impossible. It's a futile endeavor. I'll actually tell you what they're going to do. I'm in the process of writing my second book on Bitcoin on this subject, which is how governments will actually deal with it. Big currency governments like China and India and the United States have a lot to lose from having a completely open currency, i.e. Bitcoin. So what they do is they will put in something called currency controls. So the Indian government will end up treating Bitcoin like they treat US dollars. For those of you that don't know, you can't just move unlimited amounts of US dollars in or out of India. That is illegal. Why do you think that's illegal? Take a guess. Because they don't want a currency crisis. If you let people do that, all of the people holding any meaningful amount of rupees will convert it to dollars. And that would devalue the rupee and create chaos in terms of a stable currency. So what they do is they have frameworks under which people can convert between rupees and dollars. Similar things they will do for Bitcoin. They just were not ready to do that in 2017 because, like I said, cryptocurrency came out of nowhere. And governments don't respond in days. They like taking years to deal with matters. So in order to kind of maintain the chaos, they said this. They said that state banks cannot work with cryptocurrency exchanges, to be more specific. Now, if you go on a currency like a market cap, you would see that there's probably about $300 million worth of Bitcoin being traded every day in India. $300 million, a very small number compared to the rest of the world. It actually still has a very small adoption cycle, but $300 million is a lot of money still. Where is all of that money being exchanged? It's being exchanged on a peer-to-peer market. Do you guys know a peer-to-peer market? Do you know OLX, where you guys buy and sell stuff, like computers and stuff? There are peer-to-peer exchanges in India that don't hold bank accounts. They just connect you and him, and you have rupees and he has Bitcoin, and they let you do the transaction. So that's how all the startups in India have kind of circumvented RBI's policy. But I will finish it off by saying this. Within the next 24 months, I guarantee you, remember I said this, just remember I said this on whatever what's today's date, 28th? 28th. Remember I said this, March 28, 2019, 2020. Man, my time is completely warped. that within the next 24 months, not only will there be adoption for cryptocurrency in India, but the Reserve Bank of India will issue its own state cryptocurrency. A state cryptocurrency, you know what that is? That is a cryptocurrency issued and controlled by the Reserve Bank of India. I will tell you how I know this. In 2016, they got rid of 1,000 rupee, 1,000 rupee note. That didn't work out so well, right? That one didn't work out so well. In 2020, guess which rupee note they're going to get rid of? 2,000, gone completely. I will assure you of that. Why do you think they're trying to get rid of 2,000, 1,000 rupee notes? They're going to say it's corruption. Let's believe them. Let's just say it's corruption for 1 second. Do you know how you get rid of corruption? You get rid of cash. Because the only mechanisms of illicit activities and corruption is cash. You can't do that much corruption through Google Pay. I assure you of that. So it benefits the government very much so to have a state-regulated cryptocurrency. They just didn't want Bitcoin to just go rapid while they're developing their own state cryptocurrency. So that's what they did. It's the same thing in China. China, India, next 24 months, both will have a digital yuan and a digital rupee. I 150% assure you of that. So that's just legal stature in India. And the Supreme Court, by the way, you should actually read the Supreme Court's last comments on, so it's basically RBI versus cryptocurrency, okay? And so they're going to go to the Supreme Court because the Reserve Bank of India doesn't have the ability to issue laws. They can issue regulation, they can't issue laws. That's still a congressional office has to do that. So RBI should try to convince the Supreme Court to say all cryptocurrency is illegal and everyone who deals with it should go to jail. That should be pretty simple considering nobody uses it, right? But it's not. The Supreme Court has not wanted to do that and has repetitively told RBI to go back and make your case stronger. And that's why they continue to delay it. And I think the Supreme Court, just like RBI, just like everybody else, knows that this government and the next government will use a digital rupee to get rid of cash. That is very obvious. Now talking about why our opportunity is here. So this is the greatest payments market on planet Earth. It is the largest English-speaking population in the world. It is the largest internet-connected population in the world. Largest amount of humans under the age of 30. Largest concentration of engineers. These are all things that naturally, without government intervention, this would be the largest cryptocurrency market on planet Earth. But because the government has created some regulatory stiflings while they're trying to roll out their market, that is created less adoption. So I like to go where there are problems. That's where there are opportunities. That's why we thought it was very fitting to come launch Nvest here. Now, we never launched Nvest Bank in India. We still can't. We wouldn't be able to. It just doesn't make any economic sense because there's not that customer base like we have in Canada or United States. So what we launched is the Nvest Campus, which is purely incubation. So lots of Indian startups create products for the rest of the world. Right, Zoho, Freshworks, you could see all these Indian unicorns that create startups for the rest of the world. We think that there will be multi-billion-dollar cryptocurrency companies created in India, even if they can't sell in India, and we wanted to capture that market. And we wanted to create an institution that would train engineers because there's the largest concentration of engineers on planet Earth. So that was kind of our business model. The moment that the regulation changes, we will launch our exchange in India, which we already have. It's called Global Exchange. It's a very popular exchange, globalexchange.com. You go check it out. It's very, very popular. By the way, you know what company is also going to do their own cryptocurrency? Take a guess. Who's probably the most important telecommunications company in this country? Maybe the whole world at this point. Yeah, Geo. Yeah, go type in geocoins.com. It's taken. They already bought it. I was trying to buy it and sell it to them. That's why I know that. I was too late. 150%, there's no question about it. The Reliance Group is selling off all hard commodity assets. This is a company that made its entire business in hard commodities and textiles. I don't think by the end of this decade, 2030, they will have a single commodities business in their portfolio, and they will not have any textiles. They want to go into gaming, e-commerce, and of course, the best business on planet Earth is still payments. And so the most powerful company in India, maybe the most powerful company in Asia, who very much has close alliances with all the powers that be, will also roll out their coins so that you can use your geo-powered phones to send geo payments. And I think single-handedly could put Google Pay and Paytm out of business. So that's just my other take on it. Guys, you have to remember, this is not small markets. This is not like shoes or luxury products. This is the business of money. And the business of money, the only comparison I can make of that is like the business of water. And you see how many wars there are fought over water? Because everybody uses water. It's almost a civil product, not even a consumption product. And the business of money is like that. You're talking about governments, state banks, central banks, huge conglomerates, universities, nonprofits, religions, all rely on currency flows. The next 10 to 20 years, my book is called Currency Wars, because that's what it's going to be. Governments think that Bitcoin is a threat to their currency. And the answer is no. There's no chance. If you want to buy a bag of chips, you will never use Bitcoin. It's going to be too expensive and too slow. Rupees and dollars are still better to go eat food and go to the movies and do day-to-day transactions. But you know what might be better than rupees and dollars? A Facebook currency. Because everybody already trusts emphatically. Even if you don't think you trust them, emphatically you trust them with all of your information and WhatsApp chats and pay with WhatsApp and Facebook everything. And that the government should be very scared of, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a small little like science project. But imagine the most powerful company, one of the most powerful companies in the world, with the best engineers on planet Earth, in my opinion, and 1/2 of the world's communications infrastructure releasing their own cryptocurrency, and they did. You should read the white paper. I think that should be petrifying to governments, and it is. So, long story short, there is a tremendous opportunity to be a blockchain engineer and be a blockchain like platform like us. There's probably not a great opportunity to be a cryptocurrency bank in India, which is why we haven't done that. But maybe one day we will launch Invest Bank. It'll be cool to walk into an Invest Bank. That might be cool. You guys, you remember, it's surreal. Like, you walk into an SBI and you get rupees. Imagine walking in, like our customers in Toronto, they actually walk into a place to deal in cryptocurrencies. It's bananas. No one's ever thought about that before. But I actually think that the campus, like, if you guys are ever in Jaynagar, just come by. You could just drop by. There's always stuff going on. And there's like workshops always going on there too. You should check it out. It's astonishing, guys. That environment is astonishing. It's very, very astonishing. So yeah, that's my long-winded answer. Trust me, the governments are also like you trying to figure this out. That's the way I can put it. Because no one's figured it out yet.
One more question.
Don't you think that coming of Bitcoin or any virtual currency has increased the virtual criminal rate?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. Has it increased the virtual criminal rate? No, but there is virtual crime happening with cryptocurrency. So those are two different things though. Increasing the rate means that there is more people committing crime today than there was before Bitcoin. That statistic hasn't changed. But let's say 100 people used to commit crime before Bitcoin and 100 people commit crime today. Maybe 10 out of them today do it with Bitcoin. That's for sure. But do you want to know what all the crime in the world, what currency is used for all the crime in the world? No, not even fiat. It's one particular currency. Someone said it. US dollars, yes. It's in what's in my wallet right now. Let me ask you something. If you go meet a criminal and you ask them, hey, do you want Bitcoin for payment? They're going to say no. They're going to say, give me US dollars. And that means that the aversion of Bitcoin is nothing more than to criminals a means to an end that still needs to funnel back into USD. Now, if one day all criminals in the world say, I'm completely happy accepting all of my payments for my crimes in Bitcoin, then I think there's a harder argument to be made there. But unfortunately, criminals still want regular currency because they need to buy weapons and things to operate their business with. I'll put it like this though. You have to remember that virtual crime in terms of like cyber crime, like just pure, or even payments for offline crimes like drugs, terrorist organizations, and things like that is still highly dependent on cash.
So actually, I was talking that the crimes that are happening on the darknet.
On the what?
Darknet.
Yeah, but darknet is by the way, the people that don't know, the darknet, or known as the dark web, deep web, is the entire internet that isn't indexed by Google. So anything indexed by Google is not in the dark web. If you use Tor or any of these other kind of privacy browsers, you would be able to access the dark web. And in the dark web, you get everything. Most things you don't want to see. I wouldn't recommend going on it unless you have a purpose. But what he's saying is, do they? Of course, because the people on the dark web are the most sophisticated kind of computer scientists. They're the people that would have a deep understanding of Bitcoin. So 150%. But I'm trying to explain that. I'll give you an example that happened in my backyard. So the largest marketplace on the dark web was called Silk Road. Are you familiar with this? Silk Road. Silk Road was actually a place where you could buy, it's like, let's call it eBay for illegal items. You could buy anything on it. It's honestly terrifying if you've ever gone on it, bombs, drugs, guns, whatever you want. And over the last couple of years, before it got shut down, Bitcoin became the default mode of payment because it was so much easier to transact. But the point that I was trying to get across is that although Bitcoin kind of functions well as an internet currency, it does not actually fulfill the functions of facilitating that activity. Because in order to facilitate, it's almost like you can compare Bitcoin in the dark net to like TikTok points or like PUBG points. It's a way that you can actually establish value online, but it would never, just Bitcoin without USD, it would be impossible for the Silk Road to function. So I think that more or less, it never doesn't increase crime, but I think people will use Bitcoin for it. There's no question about that. But did we get rid of US dollars for all the millions and millions of crimes that were perpetrated with US dollars? Impossible. Currency, whether it's dollars, Bitcoin, rupees, is nothing but a medium of exchange. The real question isn't, is Bitcoin capable of being used by criminals? Because that answer is yes. The real question is, what is the worst thing that can happen with Bitcoin compared to the worst thing that can happen with fiat currency? Like I always say, Bitcoin, is the internet perfect? No, it's just much better than telephones. Right? You would never say that the internet is better than the next technology that's not invented yet 100 years from now. You just would say it's much better than telephones. And hence, there's still all these crimes committed on the internet, but you never would say that the internet increases crimes. Similarly, is Bitcoin perfect? 100% no. Not at all. It has so many flaws with it. Even technical flaws. It has systematic computer science flaws.
If you have a few Bitcoins and you forgot your password, it's
lost.
You cannot
Yeah. So, okay, that's interesting as well. If you are using real Bitcoin wallets on your computer, yes, he's correct. That actually is not a bug. That's the feature. That's the whole point, is that nobody can restore your password. When you go and you click restore password, what does that mean? Just logically, on any platform. The password is stored somewhere. Someone has access to it. My question to you is, do you trust that person? Well, actually you do, and so do I. That's why we use those systems, but that's because until now there hasn't been a better system. So he's correct. If you're using a real Bitcoin wallet or like MetaMask today, and you lose those seed phrases, oh, it's all gone. I know colleagues of mine that have like forgotten to store their seed phrases, and hundreds of thousands of dollars are in laptops that they can't access. Definitely can happen. But not that right there is, if I was to get a little bit philosophical, is kind of like restoring the power of currency to the owner. Which, although the owner could be careless and spill orange juice on his laptop or something like that, is not as bad as every single human being trusting there and on one single person who could maybe be a good person and just die, right? Like you can even look at it like that type of centralization in computer science is not the greatest idea ever. But there are also web-based wallets like Coinbase or even Invest Bank and all of us. We are custodial cryptocurrency wallets, meaning we hold your cryptocurrency, and if you forget your password with us, it's like Facebook, you just restore it. So it depends on how you want to store your cryptocurrency. Again, when cryptocurrency is fully adopted, you're not going to know you're using it. It's like when you send a WhatsApp message, do you know that the packets, how the packets are being transmitted from phone to phone over network providers? No, you don't know any of that. You know that something is happening, and you frankly don't care what's happening. You just care that your WhatsApp message is being sent. That's because the internet and WhatsApp are so sophisticated. Bitcoin is not that sophisticated yet. It's very early. When it becomes sophisticated and everybody is using it, they won't even know that they're using a blockchain or they're using a cryptocurrency. It'll just be kind of seamless transactions. So, but the remarkable thing about Bitcoin is that with Google Pay, I mean, is one of the greatest payment applications I've ever seen. It's so amazing when you could just transact. But do you have the option in Google Pay to not use Google servers? But even if they gave you that option, probably for 95% of things, you're okay using Google servers, like buying milk and stuff. But in Bitcoin, you will have the option of also controlling the data yourself, as well as potentially working with companies like ours that can provide more friendly, kind of customer-oriented services. So, I mean, the fact that it gives you an option, you were born into a currency that you didn't choose. You didn't choose the Indian rupee, it chose you. I didn't choose the Canadian dollar, it chose me. I could never change that, and you can't change that. The idea that someone created something on the internet that gave the whole world a choice, man, scary, terrifying what could happen. Just like no one thought that the internet would make cat videos and PUBG. I don't know what cryptocurrencies and blockchain actually holds for the future, but I know it'll be very impactful. But those are the very profound questions, very, very good questions. Sorry for the long-winded answer. That's kind of my issue. I talk extensively when I start going.
Anyone else?
Everyone's hungry. Someone order, get some Swiggy in here. Like, get him, order Swiggy for everyone.
My question is, in 2017 there was an attack called as WannaCry virus, which affected the whole world.
Yeah.
So it was a ransomware attack.
Yes. WannaCry. Yeah.
So the hackers behind that, they took payments in the form of
Bitcoin, of course.
So my question is, when you said blockchain has all the transactions, that is for my wallet.
End to end.
So everything is over there. I mean, the blockchain holds all the.
Absolutely.
So why can't we trace back to the person?
Wow.
Good question.
It's a fabulous question. Fabulous question. It's so advanced, that question is unbelievable. So either he already knew about it or he was just astutely listening. That's a great question, isn't it? If everything is stored on the blockchain, why can't we just find everyone? And this is the, like you guys, I mean, I get goosebumps sometimes, and I've read it so many times, the Bitcoin white paper. This combination of cryptographic game theoretical systems by Satoshi Nakamoto, he made everything stored on the blockchain while not revealing the identity of the wallet holder. Now, if you want to know technically how that's possible, we can talk about it after, but what it means is you have an IP address. The IP address is only traceable if your network provider reveals your ID. Now imagine you had an IP address where the network provider did not know your ID. You would just be an IP address. And there could be millions, and you could create thousands yourself. And although all transactions are stored on the blockchain, absolutely correct, you would see, like that hacker that took millions of dollars of payment, you can go find his transaction. You just can't use his wallet to find him. The transaction is there. I've had Bitcoin stolen from me where I'm watching them. Can you imagine this, right? Just because like out of like test, like for security purposes, we would be watching like, my God, this is like you can see everywhere, wallet to wallet it's going, but nobody knows. And and that's probably going to be the difference between a government issued currency, which is they're going to make the IP addresses known and KYC to the government, so that when there is a transaction, they will be able to like link it to your PAN card or something like that and find out who did it. But in terms of an open blockchain where identity is not required, where that WannaCry hacker could have been 11, do we know? We have no idea. And that is an extraordinary concept of being able to, just think, how can you create a system where every transaction is visible to everyone, but the person that made it is not? Yeah, great question though. Yeah.
So I also read that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum or something, they have a limited amount of how much can be mined.
Yeah.
So why is that?
So,
Why can't there be unlimited money?
wow, okay. So Bitcoin is a better example than Ethereum because Ethereum actually does have a floating supply, meaning that the Ethereum network could issue, they haven't decided the full amount. It's at about 90 million right now, something around that. Bitcoin is different. Guys, remember, I will 100% say Bitcoin will never replace US dollars or rupees or euros. That's not the point. Bitcoin will replace gold completely. That's why buying Bitcoin will probably be like, that's all of my entire life's work is in Bitcoin. Because before currency, do you know what was money? Gold. Gold has been around for better half of 3,000 years as currency. It's been around the better half of millions of years as a thermodynamic substrate of the Big Bang. And do you know why gold was a great money? You couldn't make any more. If you wanted to make more gold, you would have to recreate the Big Bang. That's not easy. Very hard to do, which means that if I had gold, it actually carried value. 10 years from now, there can never be more gold. There can only be more owners of the same quantity of gold, meaning it drives the prices up. So my ancestors, your ancestors, everyone's ancestors said, hey, this is a great money. But at the advent of the modern, like I would say right after World War I, all countries got off the gold standard. Before, if you went to the United Kingdom Bank of England and you took in pounds and you gave it to the Bank of England, they have to give you gold. If you went to any bank in the United States and said, hey, here's my $20, give me my money, they would have to give you gold because all currencies, fiat currencies, were backed by gold. After World War I, most European countries denounced the gold standard. And in 1979, Richard Nixon, President of the United States, revoked the gold window, meaning currencies are no longer backed by gold. Do you know what's the difference between normal currencies and gold? You can make normal currencies very fast. Anytime you feel like it, a government can make more currency. Now, why does that sound like a problem? I'll tell you why. If you have 10 rupees today and you worked hard for that money, then you decided that I'm saving this money for my kids, for my family, for blah, 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 blah. And then later you find out, wait, this 10 rupees is not worth what I thought it was worth. Or in other words, milk is more expensive today than when your parents used to buy milk. Why? Is there less cows? Seriously, is there less cows? I think there are actually more cows, actually, mathematically speaking. Is there less food? That food is more expensive today than when your parents bought it? No, the value of your money has gone down. Usually when the value of your money has gone down, that's called theft. But you don't call it theft, you call it inflation. And inflation is a very tricky term that I think economists use to tell you the fact that they're devaluing your currency by printing more money because it's not backed by gold. Had it been backed by gold, they couldn't do that. Coming back to your question. When Satoshi Nakamoto wanted to create Bitcoin, he wanted to duplicate the principles of gold. And the most important principle of gold is that you cannot create anymore. And so he made a fixed amount, 21 million Bitcoins, and that will only ever be it. And gold is governed by the principles of thermodynamics, meaning you can't just create gold, you have to now invoke gold as a chemical reaction, which is almost impossible to do. And Bitcoin is governed by the governing laws of cryptography, which probably are stronger than the laws of thermodynamics, because in order to create more Bitcoin, you would have to destroy the entire Bitcoin network's consensus algorithm, which I told you has 100 times the amount of computers that all of Google has running in support of it. it is immutably valuable because you will never make more Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto can't make more. No government can make more. Shorupan cannot make more. It is gold for your grandchildren. Your grandparents kept gold. I'm sure your grandmothers passed down gold necklaces to your mothers. I heard that there's some stat like Indian housewives have like more gold than like 4 or 5 European countries combined or some crazy stat like that. Yes, your grandparents also used cassettes and you laugh at them. Yes? Have you ever seen a cassette? Okay, trust me, I've never seen one. I don't know how to use a cassette. I think it's the most funny thing in the world. If someone showed me a cassette, I would laugh. I would wonder what was going through their head when they put this situation together. I would ask them why they didn't just take out their iPhones and listen to music, the type of dumb questions that a young person would ask. That is how your children will look at you when you try to give them some gold. They'll be like, just give me some Bitcoin, because they will not understand why you would use some heavy metallic piece of asset to transact money, which is still better than fiat currency, for sure. But if you have all the principles of gold and you can move it across the world in milliseconds, then I think you would understand why the kids would gravitate towards it. And that's the reason why they put a fixed supply on Bitcoin. Any other questions?
On this side?
I think that is, I think they're waiting to munching on whatever is at the canteen. Guys, those were very phenomenal questions. I think might be the best sequence of questions we ever got at university.
Thank you, Shorupan.
Appreciate that.
Thank you guys for sitting here for these times, and we are very sorry. Okay, we have taken so much time. But the thing is, like, we are very much thank you for your patience, even though there is no one, your HODs and faculties also have been sitting very quiet and interesting. How's the event went? Good. Thank you for the things, and thank you for your valuable feedback. Okay, like he will read each and everything. And the thing is, like, for you, like even though Nvest is there for you, you want to prove yourself in the blockchain, or you want to learn about the blockchain, and you want to do internships or the projects, whatever the things in your mind you're having, you can bring it to us, and we'll help you in the training, we'll help you in the placement, and we'll give you the job, and everything will be there for you. If you want to click, like you just go through the website Nvestlabs, Nvest campus will be there for you. Sure.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.